Good morning, doctor. Welcome back.
Good morning, Venkatesh. Nice to be back with you again.
Great. So our topic for today is re-engineer yourself. It's a word that many people use nowadays to talk about the changes we need to do in ourselves. One of the reasons we need quite often to go deep inside and change some of our fundamental beliefs or the way we approach things is many times when there are changes in the world outside, we need to change to adapt to them, right? And many times we need to introduce new habits or relevant habits. All of these require fundamental changes, and that's what we are referring to when we say re-engineer yourself. Yes, doctor?
Yes, true.
Over to you, doc.
Okay. Thank you, Venkatesh. Now, the word engineer may look a little out of place for many of the audiences,
Right.
because not all of them use it very often. So, why this engineering? What do you mean by engineering? We are not roaming around with hammer and tongs and some earth-moving equipment or something. Then why talk about engineering? Why
Right.
not say just new change or something?
Right.
Yeah, it's quite a valid argument. But here, the word engineer is used to re-emphasize, one more re has come, re-emphasize the fundamental changes that you want to make. Now,
Correct.
re-engineering is actually a fundamental change in what you are doing and
Right.
in how you think and how you plan and so forth. This engineer word is that much more powerful
Correct.
and stressful. It is used to emphasize
Right.
all the things that you need to do, right from body, mind, and soul. That there again,
Correct.
you have to do change the body, your mind, and your soul. That's
Correct.
quite an exhaustive kind of a redevelopment. The
Right.
redevelopment again cannot be superficial.
Correct.
When you see a building being redone, redeveloped, they
Right.
are tearing down the whole building. Now,
Correct.
redevelopment means, you are just breaking down everything and tearing it down and mix it with mitti or something,
Yeah. You're
And
rebuilding. You're literally rebuilding from within, fundamentally.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Re-engineering brings that across. Correct.
right. Yeah. It's simply revising or some such thing may not may talk about the gravity of the situation.
Correct.
Here, it's a completely new, all-embracing change.
Correct.
And that has to be appreciated. That's the reason why we use the word redevelopment.
Re-engineer. Correct.
Redevelopment. Now, at various levels, the word re can be used
Right.
either to, depending on the context, you can use it in a very light way or you can use it in a very poignant way.
Correct.
Now, this redo, for
Correct.
example, redevelopment, it's a one-way traffic. Once you have broken it down, you have broken it down. You cannot
Correct.
rebuild it.
Correct.
So, and that is the gravitas of the situation.
Correct.
And you go by that.
Emphasizing it with engineering is, yeah, it talks to how fundamental the changes are. Absolutely.
Right. So it is not a light affair, it's not a one-way affair, it's not a two-way affair. It
Correct.
is a
Sort
heavy
of one way.
bulldozer,
Correct.
yeah, bulldozer type of activity. And that is where we have the redevelopment or re-engineering comes in.
Correct.
Re-engineering, of course, applies to all aspects of one's in the daily life.
Correct.
Re-engineering, for example, uh, will tell you how to plan your things
Correct.
from A to Z, and then how will you derive benefits out of that, etc.,
Correct.
etc. So
Yeah.
re-engineering that way has more profundity in it, and
Correct.
then there's it is one way.
Correct.
You can't retrace your steps, and that
Correct.
is all the more important because it gives you an opportunity to completely refurbish, completely redo your thinking process. Yeah,
Correct.
you do thoughts. You have to ultimately, it all comes down to thoughts.
Correct.
Unless you think the right way and in the right manner,
Correct.
you cannot rethink. It's a rethink the thing.
Correct.
Rethink is again similar to this, but more sort of encompassing various processes of thinking and acting
Correct.
and so forth.
Yeah.
So by and large, yeah, any comment, Venkatesh?
No, perfect. Perfect. No, and to your point, I guess till now we have been emphasizing the fundamental nature, right? You are actually literally changing the internal machinery, is what we are sort
Right.
of alluding to. I
Right.
guess in this slide, it's a humorous thing, but I think it's applicable. They are talking about, an engineer is someone who does guesswork based on unreliable data. And that is true in all our lives, right? We don't have
Yeah.
perfect knowledge. We don't have perfect knowledge, but we still have to do.
Right. Right. Right.
Yes.
Good.
Go ahead, doctor.
Yeah. 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 Next slide, please.
Yeah,
Now, in common parlance, reinventing oneself is more often used. Hmm?
correct. Correct.
Maybe it doesn't indicate the gravity of the situation. Reinvent,
Yeah,
For example, we'll see some examples here where a person does something and is not happy with what he's being doing.
right.
And somebody will say, okay, why don't you reinvent yourself?
Correct.
For example, if you are an engineer, you become a doctor. It's too drastic a change.
Correct.
But then you have to reinvent. Now that
Correct.
is also reengineering. So there's a considerable overlap between these words. But
Correct.
ultimately, the gravity of the situation of change is entirely up to you. You can
Correct.
still call yourself a re-engineer and then do a shoddy, superficial job.
Correct.
But since you say I'm reinventing myself, you're reasserting yourself now.
Correct.
There are so many
Layers to
examples.
that meaning. Correct. I think
Yeah,
one important point this picture seems to bring also, maybe you want to talk about that, is sometimes you have to recognize the need, like the time to reinvent yourself. Sometimes what you're doing doesn't work and you need to figure out something new. I think you have talked about this very often, right? You have to recognize
right,
the need for change, first of all.
right, right. Very true, very true. So ultimately, the driving force is the thinking process.
Correct.
Not the hammer and tongs that you may wield when you are doing that thing.
Correct.
But unless you think right in the right volume and right magnitude and right everything,
Correct.
you cannot be reinventing. And so here the word rethink stands in good stead.
Correct.
So rethink, hmm, and
Doctor, could
thereby
you
you
move a little to the left? Move a little to the left. You're going out of the screen. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And a little back.
yeah.
Yeah. Continue,
So
please.
reinvent and rethink again. These many of the rethinking, re-business
Right.
has a lot of commonality amongst themselves.
Correct.
But depending on the context, depending on the objective, depending on the individual, you know, the reinventing, rethinking, for example, in this very picture you can see,
Correct.
yeah, I am rethinking and therefore I am reinventing. You
Correct.
can do.
I think, no, that's a very important point you make, doctor, because unless you have rethought, what are you
Yeah,
reinventing? Right. So you have to apply your mind, recognize the need and rethink. Only then can you reinvent. You can't just be changing mindlessly. Right.
right. Very true.
So
Very true.
rethink is, in fact, the first step before one can reinvent. And
Yeah,
once you reinvent, as in have a different picture of what you want to do, then you can re-engineer, then you can make the fundamental changes. But if you have not
correct.
started with thinking, uh and you don't want to do this, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, when Tenzing Hillary and others, were trying to conquer the Everest mountain,
Right.
they asked Hillary,
Right.
you know, how do you go about this?
Correct.
He said, I go about rethinking Everest. Now, I'm only thinking about Everest all the time.
Right.
And that thing is ingrained in his thought process.
Correct.
And only then can he plan out a rethinking, reinventing process how to conquer the Everest.
Correct.
Same thing is so many other things, like James Watt, for example, in England, in England, basically.
Correct.
And uh, so many similar examples are there.
Right.
So just you think, get the thoughts right,
Correct.
and then they will automatically
Then you
follow.
can start to reshape yourself. Correct.
Appreciate. But one word of caution the author has put in there:
Correct.
do not reinvent the wheel. You
Correct.
can you can reinvent everything, but don't reinvent the wheel. No, you can
Correct.
somebody jokingly say, "Yeah, I am rethinking the wheel because the wheel I have got in front of me is not perfect.
Correct.
So I have to rethink."
No,
And
but this is
so,
actually a very important point you're making in the context of wellness, doctor. You can't,
hmm,
for example, rethink the need for sleep or the rethink the need for balance in life. Here are things
Right.
which are now understood by medical science, by long history, that they are required. So, as much as we want to reinvent and re-engineer, to your
Yeah.
point, there are certain things there is no point questioning all over again. Correct? For
Right.
example,
Right.
you
Right.
can't say, no, no, I'm going to rethink whether I need 3 hours of sleep a night. No, it's not possible.
Correct. Correct.
We need 8 hours. We need whatever between 6 and 8 hours. And well, that is, you can't re-question that all over again.
Yeah.
A
So
very important point. Yeah.
as you rightly said, if you are thinking in the wrong direction, you are going to face the wrong music,
Correct.
and
Correct.
vice versa,
Correct.
But there are certain things which are already established, like the Earth is round.
Correct.
Nobody can agree with that, whether it
Correct.
was Copernicus or somebody else,
Correct.
So you can't say I am reinventing the Earth,
Correct.
and so forth. So there can be many absurd examples, but then by and large, if you have planned out your activity, your thinking process well,
Correct.
you are moving towards your destination,
Correct.
and you reach your goal.
Correct.
So, now bored, the word
Correct.
bored. Hmm? You may be wondering why this word bored.
Right.
Now, if you are rethinking what you are thinking, then it might lead into some negative vicious cycle, and then you may feel bored or something.
No,
So
I think
don't
one
think.
of the reasons why we talk of boredom is sometimes when you're not challenged enough or when you're doing the same thing again and again, you get bored and then there is a need to rethink what will create energy and create action. I think that's why you put it there, right? That
Right, right,
uh,
right, right.
sometimes it may come out of boredom. I've done the same thing for 30 years. Now I want new challenges. I want to grow, right? And you
Yeah,
might then boredom can be used constructively as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
You can think about what you want to do next. Yeah, this is one of your favorite ones. Yeah, please.
yeah. It reads, no man can ever step inside a river. Am I reading it correct? My
Yeah, no,
glasses have to.
you never step into the same river twice. It's not the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
man and not the same river.
yeah. So this
Heraclitus.
was
This is
absolutely
Heraclitus.
Heraclitus or Hercules, as somebody.
No, Heraclitus. Yeah,
Greek version is different from the original Indian version, whatever, or vice versa. It is basically Heraclitus. Well, its
yeah, yeah.
quotation is retained as such. And Heraclitus said, uh, you cannot cross the same river twice, hmm, because the river is not the same and you are not the same.
Correct.
More than else. The river may change, may not change, but you are changing, etc., etc. Now, you can embellish this particular statement in a variety of ways, but basically, it is known that no man can
No,
ever
change is
cross
the
the.
constant. Yeah, change is the constant. And that's why I think we are talking about why we all have to accept change, right? Because we are,
Right,
unless we accept change, we can't rethink ourselves, we can't reinvent ourselves. And
right,
once we recognize that things are changing, is when we can start to make changes that are relevant to ourselves.
right. That is an extension of the thinking process and change. Hmm?
Correct.
If
Correct.
you want to engineer a change, you have to think.
Correct.
And you have to, yeah, so that thought is a vital driving force. You don't
Yeah.
require any outsider. You require somebody with solid logical thinking to guide your thought process together,
Correct. Correct.
etc. Anyway, to come back to this, neither the doer nor the doee, as they say,
Right.
the river, the man, they are not the same.
Correct.
Uh,
You have to
he
accept it.
can,
You have to accept the change.
yeah, yeah. Right.
Everything is all the time changing and you can't fight it. You have to accept the change.
Right. Actually, in my area of social work in Purandar Taluka of Pune district,
Right.
you know, there used to be many wild rivers,
Right.
The river swells up during monsoon, and then it gets, the whole area gets flooded. And if you look at that river, you'll wonder how come I came here and how come I cross.
Correct.
But now people say that, well, it doesn't remain the same river and doesn't remain the same you. So
Correct.
you wait and then things will improve, like that.
Correct.
There are ways and ways of playing with the words.
Correct.
But you cannot reinvent yourself in the wrong direction.
Correct.
It won't work. Yeah,
Correct.
so like that. Yeah.
Yeah, here I
Any
think, yeah, this slide is, I think, talking about, you added it because sometimes we have to also remember that everything doesn't require a full reinvention. There are times when
right.
you just need to make minor adjustments and move on, right? So it's not that every single thing calls for a complete rehaul and a complete reengineering. This slide is saying that sometimes it's enough to realign the wheel. You don't need to re-engineer everything from scratch.
Right. So you should be clever enough and smart enough to know that there are certain things which cannot be changed, etc.
Correct.
The
Correct.
saying goes,
Correct.
you know, certain things cannot be changed and certain things can be changed, but then you should know the difference between the two, etc., etc.
No, that's a very
So,
important one. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
That prayer
So,
they talk about, right? Let me accept the things that I can't change, uh,
yeah,
and let me change the things I can. But more importantly, know the difference between the two.
between the two, yeah. Again, if you don't do that, you'll be barking up the wrong tree forever till the
Correct.
dog dies or something. So, that is something you have to accept and then incorporate in your thinking
And
process.
yeah,
Now, this picture that you see here, many of you may be familiar, may not be familiar, but during their time, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton ruled the film world in Hollywood. Yeah.
right,
The, the reason why I'm putting it here is that Richard Burton proposed to Elizabeth Taylor, and they agreed to get married, and they married.
correct,
And lo and behold, after a few days, few weeks, few years, whatever, Richard Burton loses interest in Elizabeth Taylor, wondering this man has a roving eyes or something. No, but it's not really that case. It's again the same river twice. That principle applies here.
right,
Once you have gone through the phase of being, a person of your nature and so forth, you literally sort of can't be flogging the same horse, and you have to move on. So that was the time when Richard Burton started dating one black bartender lady.
right,
It's a black and bartender lady, and this fellow is number one numero uno in Hollywood,
right,
and well, he is no longer interested in Elizabeth Taylor, and he is looking for somebody else.
right.
Now, you can interpret this in a hundred and
In
one
any
different
number of
ways.
ways. Correct, correct,
Yeah, yeah. But everything has an expiry date. You
right,
be it Taylor or whatever. They accept that there is an expiry date.
correct,
And plan it in such a way that when the expiry date is passed, not in a drastic way of disturbing others and so forth. You have to plan it in. You have to build it in.
correct,
Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton has to build in the element of change.
right,
And he has to say, okay, we have reached the end of the road.
right,
Let's swear or some such thing,
right.
depending on how culture is involved
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah, it is all,
Some,
I guess, very cultural context, because for some people,
yeah,
these are things. No, I like that you use this example, because there are some people who will say, look, relationships are forever. And you
yeah,
must not, you cannot, while you change things, you can't keep changing, let's say, your relationships. But
right,
I guess these are examples of where, in their cultural context, if the two of them had changed so much and had now grown so far apart, that was valid, and instead of making each other miserable, they had to decide that they are happy to move on, right?
right, very true. Now, this topic is covered in a very nice way in a YouTube you know, essay, if you like.
Right,
So that YouTube essay is talking of people in senior years
right,
hmm, remarrying, the
right.
remarrying, in some areas it will be taken as a disaster, remarriage
Yeah,
is a
or
disaster.
almost a taboo subject. How can you even imagine such a thing? Correct,
Yeah.
after, let's say,
Yeah.
30, 40 years of togetherness. Correct.
Yeah. Now, again, there are ways of not sort of appeasing or anybody, but then you have to remain loyal to that person, whether man or woman. You remain loyal and find out a workable way of, moving on with
Correct.
the harmony. and not get stuck to the whatever adamantly, you're not getting stuck to that marriage.
No, I
Now
think
this
you
is
make a important point, which is that, instead of a very, if you are willing to make that drastic a change in some direction, you might as well ask yourself why are these issues happening, and look within.
right,
And that's why we are talking
right,
about re-engineering yourself. Otherwise,
correct.
whenever there is a problem, you want to change the person in front of you, or you want to change the situation, but you're not
Yeah,
changing yourself. You are not working on yourself. And the answer may very often lie there rather than in the partner or in the situation or whatever else you're frustrated with.
correct. Very true, very true.
Yes. This
Next
slide,
slide, please.
no, you had put this slide for a particular reason.
Yeah, to show, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Only to show people that, things change, and change is not a disaster.
correct,
You see the leaves. Autumn
correct,
leaves fall, and
correct,
autumn leaves are meant to fall. So the tree doesn't sit there and cry, my autumn leaf has fallen.
correct,
It says leaf falling is an integral part of aging process.
correct,
And you have to accept the same thing in human situation also,
correct,
and so forth.
correct.
Again, plenty of these things can be interpreted
In different
in one way
ways. Yeah,
or
but
another.
it's a very important point I think you often make. The leaf falling. There is the
Yeah,
question of the leaf and there is a question of the tree. The leaf has to
yeah,
fall, and the tree has to accept as well that the leaf has fallen, and both of these are
right,
part of the cycle of nature. There is no fighting it, right? And that some of these
right.
are very crucial to accept. You can't say I'll re-engineer this. This, I mean, so when you say don't reinvent the wheel, it's sort of like saying those people who sort of have a lifelong pursuit to remain immortal, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
there is no such thing as immortality in that sense. Yeah,
right. So look at it the other way around.
correct.
Whether it's Autumn Leaf or Elizabeth Taylor or what, you know, nothing is forever. Nothing is forever. So this too shall pass.
Pass.
Now, this
Correct.
is a famous saying from King Solomon's times. King Solomon was supposed to be the embodiment of wisdom and maturity. And of course, King Solomon said this, nothing is forever, this too shall pass. There are people who dispute the authorship of this.
Yeah,
Some people
it's there
say that
everywhere.
it is
Yeah,
not part of it, you know. It is there in movies, it is in dramas, it is in
there even in our
uh,
Indian culture, for example. Correct. Yeah,
yeah. So nothing is forever, this too shall pass. You have to appreciate the spirit behind this.
correct.
Now, if you are sort of patient enough to wait for the tide to change, like the village river in
Correct.
Purandar Taluk,
Correct.
that village river comes in such a torrent
Correct.
with so much force.
In
You
monsoon and
can't,
it is dry in summer. Correct.
yeah. And if you look at the river at that time, you'll be flabbergasted. You'll say,
Correct.
"Oh my God, this river is not crossable," and so
Correct.
forth.
Correct.
Within 15 minutes, things change. You know,
Correct.
my villager friend said, "Don't panic, doctor. This river will dry up." He said, "When?"
Yeah.
He said, "In 15 minutes." In 15 minutes, it dried up.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
Because they had released water from the dam. Exactly. Correct.
yeah. So no, we call this in Tamil, Katar. Katar means, forest river, forest stream.
Right.
The river R is river.
Right.
Kat is, river. What is that? What do you call that? Uh,
A
Anyway,
forest stream.
so
Yeah.
the stream, a river.
Yeah.
Actually, it is rivers and a stream,
Right.
and there is a reward for that. Anyway,
Okay.
it's my mind. But the point is that too shall pass.
Correct.
No, you can looking at it again, going back in a very cynical way.
No,
Yeah,
no. I think it's acceptance. I think we all have to, it is, I think which is coming to the next slide. You cannot
yeah,
say in your 40s, I would like to be 20. And you
right,
cannot say in your 60s, I wish I was 20 again. And that is when some
right.
of this midlife crisis and sort of, mismatched expectations with reality. So as much as you should try to re-engineer yourself, I think we are making this point about exactly like you said, we have to accept the things we can't change, but work on the things we can and know the difference between the two.
Yeah, very true, very true. How are we placed? Number of slides,
Yeah, this is the
Ankur?
second penultimate slide. Next slide is the last one.
Okay. What is the next slide?
Yeah. So this is the last slide.
Okay. Now, we have seen so many factors affecting the temporality and the permanence of thinking and acting and so forth.
Right.
But one thing is clear that, in a changing world, in a changing universe for that matter, why a world,
Right.
hmm, there are certain things which are normal, and there are certain things which yield from the normality to new normality.
Correct.
Yeah. So again, how profound or how prolonged will the change be? But every change has its element of new normality.
Correct.
Yeah? And this could be an integral part of your new normal, or it could be like a cipher, a round is an infinitesimal part of a series of straight lines which makes it a round,
Correct.
like that. So there's an integral normal within that thing. And we can go and give examples like this, it's okay. But basically, whatever is there is a new normal to it.
Right.
Hmm? If your normal is not new, but it is changing, then by definition, it is new normal. And
Right.
that will change.
Correct.
It's a little paradoxical, but that is to be accepted. If it
Correct.
will change, normal will happen, go, it will come. The new one will come again,
Correct.
like leaves. So we have to accept that. If
Correct.
you accept a change as new normal, a lot of your mental agony for losing it will be lost, will be
Correct.
gone. So, like this too shall pass,
Correct.
King Solomon said. He was only talking of new normal.
Correct.
He's saying this too shall pass.
Correct.
It's a new normal.
Correct.
Yeah, and you accept it. You accept it.
Yeah.
And during that period, whatever happens, happens.
Correct.
They said in the Reader's Digest article of some few years ago, I read that the Earth has a shelf life, or Earth, moving Earth, rotating Earth,
Correct.
will be completely burnt out in 5 million years. Oh
Correct.
my God.
Or 500
You know
million
what?
years, or whatever it might be. Correct.
Yeah. But
So
this is
nothing
an
is
actual.
constant. Absolutely. I think you make a very good point that finally, even the things we think are completely unchangeable will change, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the more we accept that that is normal and that is no longer abnormal. That let's say at 40 you cannot run like you were when you were 20. It's not an abnormality. It is the new normal. You have to accept it,
Correct.
and only then can you
Correct.
start to change yourself to accept it and to internalize it. No,
Correct.
perfect,
Correct.
perfect. So I'll
So,
summarize, doctor, with your permission.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, so today we just talked about the need to sometimes completely fundamentally change ourselves, and there are various ways we can look at the word change. Sometimes it's a reasonable just a realignment of our thinking, but sometimes we need to completely rethink things and change ourselves, reinvent ourselves, and that's why the word engineer. It's almost like you change your internal machinery to do that. But the first step in doing that is to recognize what you can change and what you can't, and then to make the change thoughtfully. Much of this requires acceptance of the fact that change is a constant, and you cannot wish away some of the fundamental things in life. You can't say I want to re-engineer, for example, the basic needs of the human body or its limitations or aging or any number of these things. Equally, we have to recognize that sometimes what seems abnormal is just the new normal. The last slide, right, what we were just discussing. And the
Right.
more we make peace with that, the more we are in a position to accept and make the changes within ourselves. Yes, doctor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well summarized. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Look forward to the next one. See you then next
Thank
week.
you. Same here. Same here.
Take care. Bye.